Hello there, this is WTii, and this is a Starcraft 2 replay of a top tier game played recently. Now, I believe the players were mTwDIMAGA and EmpireKas. So this has got high ratings and it's very popular, so I assume it might be worth covering. So when the game decides to load, I can actually look at it. We can all look at it instead of just this loading screen. Wow, that is taking its time. When you're ready. It's just a tiny little bit. Come on, get in there. Seriously. There we go. Right, I haven't done this in ages, to be quite frank, so bear with me. I'm not going to be very good at it, but as you can see, we've got mTwDIMAGA on the left-hand side of the map, otherwise known as 8 o'clock position, and EmpireKas at the top right of the map, which would be otherwise known as about the 2 o'clock position. But you usually use definitions of 12, 3, 6, 9. You can get it close enough, can't you? So I'm actually going to have to click on these things, to be honest, because I don't know all the hotkeys for it. But we've got basically a Terran versus Zerg matchup here, and the Zerg is loving it because he is very far away from the Terran, which is good. It's good for Zerg. You know, they don't really like to be very close to their opponents. I've noticed this in Starcraft 2 games. They do enjoy having their distance. Why? So they can basically take up all the expansions as safely as possible. And on a map like Metalopolis, there are expansions everywhere. I mean, look at the amount of potential expansions this Zerg could have on this side of the map before Red could even get close. There's a lot. There's a lot. About 5, maybe? 5? But obviously, the only real expansions the Zerg is probably going to go for is going to be this one here, is natural, and then this one sort of at the middle ends of the map, as it were, because this is basically the safest positions, and it's very hard for the enemy to get there. And if the enemy do want to get there, they're going to sacrifice some sort of defense, or it's going to be miles away from his own base. And the Zerg can move fast, so the Zerg can punish very easily. So what I'm going to try to do, like I said, I don't really know the hotkeys, but I'll just keep an eye on what the two players are doing, and try not to yabber on too much. I just try and focus on what's going on in the game as best as I can, because that makes it easier for me as well, because then I don't have to come up with jokes and shit for you. So tough. I'll just be one of those boring commentators that just goes, well, he's building a supply depot now, in case you couldn't actually see that with your own eyes. And Zerg's expansion is almost halfway up, and it looks like we have a spawning pool currently producing. Probably got about another 40 seconds before it is going to be built. The extractor currently has 3 harvesters on it, and another drone just came out for mTwDIMAGA. Does that sound familiar to you? It might sound familiar. So there'll be lots of that. So pretty standard play, to be honest. mTwDIMAGA's not playing it too safe. I mean, too risky, as it were. I mean, he could go for like mass expansion or all that, but he's definitely delayed that spawning pool for quite a while. I imagine it was about a 14 or 15 spawning pool. So that's fairly delayed, but you can't play it too risky because he doesn't know where his enemy is. He's Overlord, his first one only knew that the enemy wasn't there. He could still be in close positions, so he's alright. He did do a little scout with a drone, but I didn't catch when that was, so you know, I'm a bit out of touch with this stuff. Looks like a reactor is going up for Empire, which means he's going to be going Hellions, I assume, since the factory is almost going to be built at the same time. They're going to swap over, and he's going to have double Hellion production coming out there. Very, very good against Zerg, and obviously great in a position like this where you are as far away from your enemy as possible. Hellions are nice, fast, light units that can get across the map very speedily, and they can do some good harass against open expansions like this. You can feed round the back here, get some hits against the drones. Yeah, it's not easy to defend against Hellions on this map so much, but there is some sort of block. If you have a spine crawler like here, it can still hit the Hellions that are going to come round on average. And you have to have your queen and maybe a couple of units spread out a little bit to get odd hits. If you are using Zerglings against Hellions, make sure you spread them out as best as you can. Looks like mTwDIMAGA is going to have his little scouting Zergling denied there by the EmpireKas, rising his supply depot. And the 2 Hellions are on their way, it looks like. They're going to clear off their Selnaga tower, make sure that there's no Zerglings there, so the fission is gone there. This means that until Dimaga can get another Zergling onto that Selnaga tower, he's not really going to have any visibility, and he's going to feel that bit less safe. This is a nice deny of the creature tumor, but obviously Dimaga safely and comfortably cancelled it, which means he can re-put that down, I believe. The Zerglings are coming in, they're going to try and get past the Hellions and go and stop, so they can do as much damage as possible, but they've got to be so careful not to clump up, or else they're going to take way too much damage. It wasn't a good exchange there. Empire played that right. It wasn't really much Dimaga could do there, to be fair. He did what he could, but it just wasn't going to work for him, so he made the smart decision to back off. Meanwhile, he's getting his third expansion, which is what the Zerg want to do, because you want to keep ahead of your enemy, basically, if they're Protoss or Terran, by one expansion. Always, pretty much. It's like a golden rule. You know, it might be different in some games, depending on resources or the map locations and where the expansions might be, but in general you want to be one base ahead of your opponent as a Zerg. Now let's have a look at what's being built. So hatchery, still just creature tumors for the Zerg so far. Infernal Pre-Igniter is about 40 seconds away, 30 seconds real time maybe, and he's going to spot this expansion. It's not going to go down, of course, but any Zerglings that are going to come up to stop it might get a little bit hurt by the Infernal Pre-Igniter when it's almost finished. A couple more Hellions to in total that to 6. Oh, he's got more than that. Let's have a look at the units. So he's what, 7 Hellions? Now that would basically insta-give a whole ton of Zerglings if he got a really nice line of fire there. Lots of extractors going up now, so Dimaga's going to want to get a bit gas heavy now, what with his expansion and his other expansion and his tech. There's another expansion inside of his base. So yeah, he's obviously looking to probably go for infestors maybe, or mutalisks, anything that requires a lot of gas, because to begin with, Zerg want to focus on minerals so they can get as many hatcheries up at certain expansion points and harvest away. And once they've got those expansions up fairly safely and comfortably, and they've got some good defense, you want to then move on to your gas. It looks like it's going to be Banelings. This will be interesting. He's going to have to use them very smartly against this amount of Hellions. Bit the old stop move micro from the Hellions could do some devastating damage, especially with that pre-igniter, infernal pre-igniter. Oh, the Queen is down for the count. Zerglings are going to try and get surrounded. Oh, they moved back just in time there. That was some good timing there from Dimaga. Looks like this expansion is going to go down. I don't think Dimaga is going to really risk it with his Zerglings, especially not now the expansion is that far gone. Actually, he's going to go for it. He's going to try it. This is one hell of a risk from Dimaga. Is it going to pay off? No, it's not. The Terran army is just too strong there. I don't think that was worth it. If your expansion is down to like 40%, it's pretty much going to go down anyway. You just kind of got to let it go for the moment. Try and do something with those Zerglings, maybe a bit of harass, or just build up for a slightly stronger army and then take him out, whilst his Terran units are going to take that bit longer to get from A to B on the map, and your units are going to come out quicker because they're obviously nearer your base. Now those Banelings are a little bit slow, even on the creep, because they haven't got their upgrades yet. So he's trying to wear down these Hellions, old Dimaga, but he's not having that much luck. They are still hanging in there. The Infernal Pre-Igniter is absolutely devastating. The Hellions are still living on like 7 HP. This is just absolutely devastating for Dimaga right now. I'd almost say the game was over, but I have seen Zergs come back from this before. I don't know how they do it. I couldn't do it, but it's impressive. So we'll have to see where this goes, but for all intents and purposes, Dimaga has gone and lost his expansion and a whole ton of drones. So what have we got on the units? We got 35 drones to 53 SCVs. That is a big difference. And EmpireKas has currently secured his next expansion, which is at the gold mineral. So he's going to be picking up lots of extra resources from there. And by turning his command center into a planetary fortress, this is a lovely position to have a strong sort of external base, as it were, somewhere where you could back off to. If you're getting pressured by the Zerg, you back off to this middle point, because you could always go to here. This is a nice safe position, the expansion, but here he can, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Here he can sit by his planetary fortress and feel quite comfortable and safe, especially with missile turrets up to deal with any pesky air units. Meanwhile, let's have a look at what's being produced. Anything interesting? Centrifugal hooks. that is for the banelings so they can move fast, and basically just armor and ground damage upgrades for the Zerglings. Keep those Zerglings strong, because Dimaga's sort of playing it right to some degree, because whilst Zerglings aren't very strong against this particular army compilation, as long as he keeps the Zerglings upgraded, they're going to be dirt cheap, and they're going to do that much more for their dirt cheap cost, as it were. So you need to get very lucky with those banelings against those marines, basically. I don't think anyone these days actually uses burrow with banelings, but we'll have to see if it gets used in this game. Looks like Dimaga is going to have his creep tumor denied, and even more of them are going to be denied, so he's going to lose more vision of the map and more movement speed when he's going from his base to potential expansions of EmpireKas, which I don't think Dimaga even knows about, does he? No, he's not even aware of this expansion right now, so this is not looking good for him. Now, when we come down to the unit count, Dimaga's got his drones back up a little bit, but he's still quite far behind. That's 23 workers down, and you can't really have that as a Zerg. It's not really good enough. I mean, Infestors is what I was thinking a while ago, but far be it from me to say, because I'm certainly nowhere near. I mean, I say nowhere near as good as Dimaga, obviously. I mean, that's a given. That doesn't even really need to be said. But I was thinking Infestors, so for whatever reason Infestors might not be good, or he just didn't predict this amount of Marines and Hellion compositions, but whatever it may be, these Zerglings and Banelings are not really working at the moment. I mean, I can say that in hindsight, but I would have pretty much gone for Infestors anyway had I been in his position. It may have still not worked, but I imagine that Infestors would be a lot more useful because it can stop the Hellions, allow the Zerglings to actually get up in the Hellions' face, possibly surround them, or at least do some good damage, and it will do amazing. Fungal growth will just be incredible against the Marines as well as the Hellions. Oh, Banians are being used brilliantly here. That is a hell of a lot of units killed by Dimaga there, and I mean, he's still got these Hellions, and they're going to do some devastating damage to these drones before they get picked off. He's even going for the Queen. If he can take the Queen out, that's going to slow down Dimaga's productivity again, but it doesn't look like he's going to get away with it. The Queen with her 2 armor might have actually saved her there. You don't know. That could have made all the difference, actually, looking at it. Now, there's another expansion here for EmpireKas, and another one here. Now, I do apologise because I obviously missed out this command centre getting blown up somehow, or it moved, but I'm pretty sure it turned into a planetary fortress, and when it does, you can't move it. So, judging from what I can see right now, EmpireKas actually looks like he's in trouble. I mean, he's got Zerglings around these expansions. He's lost this gold expansion. I don't know what's happened here. I was too busy focusing on what was going on in Dimaga's area. But obviously, Dimaga was using sneak tactics, which a lot of top players do. Is essentially they have 2 fights, at least 2 fights at the same time. Particularly Terran players do this with drops from the supply depots. But oh, the Banelings are really coming in strong now. Those supply depots do need to go up, but luckily because of EmpireKas' nice arc positioning with his Marines, he could take minimal damage from those Banelings and have maximum damage output as the Banelings and Zerglings went up the ridge. So the tanks obviously helped a little bit too, I imagine. So he's got a very nice strong army now, EmpireKas, but there are Zerglings running wild everywhere. I think what's probably happened here, from my perspective, is that EmpireKas might have got a little bit greedy with the expansions. He was already ahead, so I've lost track of it, but when I came back and looked again, I was like, hang on a second, why has he got so many, you know, command centers all over the place? Obviously, he's won anyway. As you can see, the GG from Dimaga pretty much displays that, but I think EmpireKas almost threw it away, but he did so much devastating damage to begin with, getting that expansion down and bringing down a whole ton of drones, making sure that his SCV count was way higher than the drone count of Dimaga's. So I thought this was a good expansion spot with a planetary fortress, so whatever Dimaga threw at it must have been pretty damn good to have brought it down, to be quite frank, because that was a pretty strong position, even without units defending it. But yeah, EmpireKas just kind of needed to transition into tanks and supply. I can't even remember the names. Medivacs, sorry, Medivacs as well, and just go for it a bit earlier in the game rather than having these extra expansions. I don't really get the purpose of them. If you're already ahead in the game, yes, you do expand and you always stay ahead of your opponent, but at the same time, you don't kind of want to throw it away when you know you've done quite a lot of damage. Zerg can sometimes get back into the game, like I said. WTii was doing a good job of it, didn't quite manage to get back into the game, but almost. By throwing Zerglings left, right and centre all over the map on these extra expansions that I don't think EmpireKas needed or could quite support at the time. WTii almost managed to get himself back into it, but the attack at the start did the most damage it could possibly do to WTI. So good play by both players, and thank you very much for watching. This has been Witty. Please subscribe, like and comment.